DFS community. Welcome into the Week 15 edition of one of the most accurate DFS shows in the industry. This is episode number 94 of the Adjusted Line Play Report, where we take a deep dive into the play in the trenches to determine game scripts and player outcomes. This show is presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. I am your host, Todd Hoffman. You can find myself on Twitter at Todzilla1337, and you can find Zilla Fantasy Elite over on Twitter at Zilla Fantasy. All right, folks, Week 15, first week of the playoffs for your fantasy teams, and hopefully you are squarely in the bye, so you don't have to make as many start-sit decisions this week as some may, but anyway, should be a good week here. No more buys. We're just going to get right into it. If you're new here, we go kind of into the main slate, go over all of the games there, basically from the Vegas game total rank, all the way from number 1 through the last one on the main slate, which I believe there's 13 on the main slate. And then we get into the Sunday night and Monday night football games for island game matchup analysis, and then get you out of here so you are a little bit more informed in your start-sit decisions here for your DFS lineups, you know, some of your prop bet decisions, and your start-sit decisions in the playoff matchups that you have going on this week. All right, week one here, game one, Detroit heading into Los Angeles on a 55 game total. That is massive there. So 55-point game total. Rams favored by 6 there, gives them a 30.5 team implied total, number 1 on the main slate. Detroit at 24.5 is the number 9 on the main slate. Number 9 team implied total on the main slate. Getting into the away team pass protection, number 16, Rams number 13, pretty even there. In those scenarios, we say, hey, standard day at the office for the quarterback. Pass DVOA, Detroit very good at number 8, but the Rams at number 3 should be able to keep up there. In these scenarios, hey, this is pretty close. Detroit probably going to struggle a little bit more passing the ball than they're perhaps used to, but in these scenarios where it's relatively close, I say studs eat. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, definitely a stud. We actually have seen in these scenarios Jameson Williams do pretty good, but I think this is probably more of an Amon-Ra St. Brown type game. You know, standard protection, and then he's going to be the one that's going to be able to overcome this DVOA matchup. And then the run blocking side, it's also pretty even. Detroit number 12 in run blocking, Rams number 19. Slight favor there for the offense. Maybe gaining some positive yardage more frequently in this matchup. And then the run DVOA, really even. Number 4 for Detroit, number 3 for the Rams. Again, in those scenarios, we say studs eat. They can overcome a matchup like that. Jahmyr Gibbs certainly falls in that boat. I think he could be heavily involved in one of the main fantasy producers this week in this type of matchup against the Rams. So he is somebody that can overcome that matchup. Amon-Ra St. Brown, somebody that can overcome that matchup. That's kind of how I expect Detroit to be able to move the ball there. On the Rams side, they are green across the board in all of their offensive categories. They're number 7 in pass protection. All the rest of them, they're number 1. Number 1 in pass DVOA, number 1 in run blocking, number 1 in run DVOA. So very, very solid offense there for McVay. Unfortunately for them, defensive pass rush for Detroit's number 5. They should be able to get after the quarterback, even though this is a pretty even matchup. I do say, hey, the Rams are used to not taking sacks. They're probably going to be under a little bit more duress in a matchup like this, so they might need to get the ball out a little bit quicker than they're used to. Fortunately for them, they do have plenty of options underneath that are pretty solid. Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, some of the best wide receivers in the league at this moment. Should be able to do okay in this matchup. And then pass DVOA, Detroit still number 6, Rams number 1. Again, they may struggle a little bit more than they're used to, but studs can overcome a situation like that. And the Rams do have 2 of them. I think Puka probably favored a little bit more over Devontae Adams in a matchup like that, but should be good. And then run-wise, Detroit number 17 in stopping the run, previously stated. Rams number 1 in run blocking. I expect them to be able to gain positive yardage when they do run. And then the run DVOA, number 8 for Detroit's defense, Rams number 1. I wouldn't expect as much explosion from the Rams run game as you may have seen in other matchups, but it does look like a decent matchup there, one where a stud can overcome, especially. I don't think Kyron Williams or Blake Corum are either of that, but they should be okay running the ball. They should be okay passing the ball, slightly worse than what they're used to. It looks like the Detroit Lions are in the exact same boat. This is a pretty evenly matched game. I don't know exactly if I agree with the 6 line here from Vegas. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than that. I would give the Rams a standard 3-point home bump there. Pace is interesting though. Detroit pretty slow at number 28, neutral situation. Rams at number 3. Just keep that in mind as you're setting your lineups. All right, number 2 game on the main slate. We have Baltimore heading into Cincinnati on a 51.5 Vegas game total. Baltimore actually 2.5-point road favorites here heading into Cincinnati. Giving them a 27-point team implied total, which is 5th best on the main slate. And then Cincinnati at 24.5, tied for 9th, as we saw there with Detroit. Getting into the away team, Baltimore 25th in pass protection, Cincinnati 30th in pass rush. Shouldn't have any issue with time to throw in this matchup for Baltimore. Pass DVOA-wise, Baltimore not very good at number 20, Cincinnati 31st in the pass DVOA. Baltimore should be, with a decent amount of time to throw, they should be pretty effective moving the ball. Cincinnati's on a historic pace for terrible defense against the tight end. So I think Mark Andrews and probably more likely Isaiah Likely gets heavily involved here and has a pretty solid week this week against the Cincinnati defense. And then run blocking wise, Baltimore number 18, Cincinnati 31st in stopping the run. Baltimore should be able to gain positive yardage each time they run. And then run DVOA, number 9 for Baltimore, Cincinnati 31st. Derrick Henry, in theory, should be able to be pretty explosive in a matchup like this. So I do like Baltimore's ability to score some points in this matchup based off of what we're seeing on paper here. Cincinnati side, number 7 in pass protection. Baltimore 31st in pass rush. Should be plenty of time to throw for Joe Burrow, which is good for him. Pass DVOA-wise, Baltimore 23rd, Cincinnati number 16. Slight favor there of the offense with time to throw. And T. Higgins being ruled out. I think this is a really good spot for Jamar Chase, and I believe Mike Gesicki could get pretty heavily involved. He usually sees a bump in production when T. Higgins or Jamar Chase are out, and then it kind of falls off the map when both of them are available. And then the run game, Baltimore number 16 in stopping the run, Cincinnati number 22 in run blocking. I expect maybe a few at or behind the line of scrimmage tackles here against Chase Brown. And the run DVOA dead even at number 10 apiece. Nothing to write home about here. I don't think Chase Brown is a stud to be able to overcome that, but not a horrible matchup, but kind of a neutral at best type of matchup there for Chase Brown, which means I think they're going to lean heavier on Joe Burrow. Watch out for weather. I know it's kind of a crazy weather week this weekend. Myself living in Minnesota, it's supposed to be below 0 for a high Saturday and Sunday, so could make it interesting for some of these outdoor games here in the northern part of the United States. Again, pace is interesting here. Baltimore 27th, Cincinnati number 2 in neutral situation pace of play. So kind of exact opposites. If Baltimore does get up, probably going to lean heavily on this run game, kind of grind out that clock. Probably a lot less plays here for Cincinnati in that scenario. But if Cincinnati gets up, they could be pushing the pace a little bit and putting up more and more points, which is going to force Baltimore to throw more, and it's a good scenario there. So Baltimore gets out to a lead. I could see this hitting the under. If Cincinnati gets out to a decent lead at the beginning of this matchup, I think this will hit the over. All right, number 3 game on the main slate is Buffalo heading into New England on a 49.5 Vegas game total. That is a 1.5 point road favorite for Buffalo, and that gives them a 25.5 team implied total. 7th best on the main slate. New England at 24 is the 12th best on the main slate. Real good for football purposes here. Buffalo fighting for their life to get into the playoffs. New England surprising people this year with how well they have played. Beat Buffalo back in week 5, so it should be an interesting rematch here. But offensive pass protection wise, Buffalo 23rd, New England 24th in the pass rush. That's pretty even, but Buffalo, in theory, should have a little bit more time to throw the ball than they're used to in a matchup like this. Pass DVOA wise, Buffalo number 10, New England 27. They should be very effective when passing the ball. Dalton Kincaid seems like the best and most consistent option in that pass game. I trust him the most, but then you got a smattering of 4 or 5 wide receivers that are mixed in there in Buffalo. Nobody kind of taking the reins there. It will be interesting to see who besides Kincaid gets involved in the pass game, but it should be good there. Run game wise, Buffalo number 3 in run blocking. New England very good though in run stopping, number 5. Really even matchup here. Maybe Buffalo doesn't have as easy of a time, but I say, hey, in these scenarios, studs eat. James Cook certainly playing like one this year. Even though the last 6 or 7 weeks it's been light on the touchdown front. Run DVOA wise, Buffalo number 3, New England number 16. New England was a lot better in the run stopping and run DVOA category earlier in the season. I think they had an injury up front there. This could be something that Buffalo exploits. Buffalo should be pretty good with the pass game. The run game, slightly worse option there, but still should be pretty effective. I do think Buffalo can score some points in a matchup like this. New England side 26 in pass protection, Buffalo 14th in pass rush. May see some sacks here. Need to get the ball out a little bit quicker there in New England. But yeah, not a particularly stellar matchup here on paper. And then the pass DVOA, New England number 4, Buffalo 17. I'd expect New England, despite needing to get the ball out quicker, should be able to move the ball pretty well against this Buffalo team being explosive, maybe scoring some touchdowns against them. Run game looks a little different. So New England number 16 in run blocking, Buffalo number 7 in stopping the run. Probably at or behind the line of scrimmage runs here for New England here and there. And then the run DVOA, pretty evenly matchup. Buffalo's been really poor in that category, 30th, but New England 31st in the run DVOA category. Will be interesting, kind of flip-flop roles there. New England probably needing to get the ball out quickly while passing, but should be explosive. And then the run game, maybe a little bit more volatile where they're getting hit at or behind the line of scrimmage. A little more than you'd like if you're a New England fan, but then, this 30-31, those are scenarios where you can say studs eat. I don't think that's necessarily the case for New England, but Buffalo's been pretty poor. I would expect New England to actually be more explosive than you've seen them so far. Both teams do play very slow. 32nd for Buffalo, neutral situation. New England 28th in neutral situation. I do think this game probably hits the under on this total. Buffalo probably does win based off of what I see on paper here, but should be close. But yeah, I think the under hits on this just with the pace of play and any weather concerns that may be going on in the New England area this weekend. Next game on the main slate is Washington heading into New York to face the Giants on a 46.5 point game total. Again, number 4 on the main slate. Giants are 2.5 point home favorites, giving them a 24.5 team implied total, which again is tied for 9th best on the main slate. Washington at 22 points is the 16th best on the main slate. Again, I think that's out of 26 teams. Washington 21st in pass protection, Giants 15th in the pass rush. Slight favor there for the Giants, but nothing too crazy. And then pass DVOA, very even there, 21 on offense versus 19 on defense. Studs eat in that situation. I think this is a Terry McLaurin game based off of what I see on paper here for that pass attack. And then the run game should actually be pretty effective. Washington 15th in run blocking, Giants 30th in run stopping. Run DVOA, Washington number 19, Giants 32nd. In theory, Chris Rodriguez could actually be pretty effective in this matchup, especially as a more neutral scenario there in the pass game. I think this run game can actually do really well against this Giants team. Very, very deep dart throw there for Chris Rodriguez in DFS large field tournaments. He's not going to be highly rostered, is at least my belief, and he could pop off for a pretty solid game here. On the Giants side, 21st in pass protection. Washington getting after the quarterback, number 10 on that adjusted sack rate. So I expect them to be able to get after Jackson Dart here, at least flush him out of the pocket, see if he runs a little bit more this week. That's a possibility. But the DVOA wise, Washington 29th in pass DVOA, really poor. Giants 13. Despite not having a ton of time to throw, I think they're going to be very explosive when they do pass the ball. Wan'Dale Robinson, Theo Johnson, I think probably big beneficiaries here because they got more of that underneath stuff covered in this offense and should be pretty explosive. On the run attack side, Giants 23rd, Washington 26th. Pretty even there, but Giants maybe find a little bit more success than they're used to in a matchup like this. And then DVOA wise, very even. Giants 18, Washington 20. Wouldn't expect anything too crazy here. I do believe Tyrone Tracy and Singletary get pretty heavily involved recently with the coaching change, but will be interesting here. I think the Giants probably move the ball a little bit better through the air here. And then pace-wise, Washington 15th neutral situation, Giants 8th, so it could be a little bit quicker of a paced game here, getting off a few more plays. And based off of what I see here, I do like the likelihood of both of these teams putting up some points. I think it does remain close. It's 46.5 game total. If there's nothing too crazy with the weather there, I think that can probably hit the over on this 46.5. I do think Washington can put up more than 22, and Giants feel appropriate there at about 24.5. All right, number 5 game on the main slate is down at 44.5 already. Plenty of games to go, so should be interesting here. Tennessee heading into San Francisco. San Francisco are 12.5 point home favorites, giving them a 28.5 team implied total. Number 2 on the main slate in terms of team implied total. Tennessee at 16 is the 22nd team implied total. Again, I believe that's out of 26 teams, so got some lower than that even. Tennessee side, right across the board on offense, 28 and 31 in the pass protection and pass DVOA categories. San Francisco 31 and 25 in those same categories. I'd expect Tennessee to have a little bit of time to throw in this and actually be a little more explosive than you've seen them be so far this season. And then the run blocking side, pretty even there, 24 and 24. Again, I would expect Tennessee to be a little better than you have seen them so far this year. Run DVOA wise, 26 versus San Francisco 21. Again, Tennessee has not been very good, but San Francisco's defense depleted there. I think Tennessee probably looks a little better than they have so far this season. Wouldn't be shocked to see them put up some points, especially after the Cleveland game last week where they looked very, very good scoring points against that Cleveland team. All right, on the San Francisco side, they're number 3 in offensive pass protection. Tennessee, though, generating lots of sacks, number 7 in the pass rush. I'll expect San Francisco to be under a little bit more pressure than they've been used to so far this season, so that's something to watch. But they should be very, very explosive, so they're number 5 in the pass DVOA, Tennessee 28th in pass DVOA. I think a game like this where it's going to be very explosive, but they need to get the ball out quick, you should see CMC and Kittle probably with a pretty healthy workload in this game in the pass attack. So I do like them having a decent game here against Tennessee, especially if they're going to be putting up some points here. And then the run blocking side, San Francisco number 14 in run blocking, Tennessee number 12 in stopping the run. Pretty even there. Studs can overcome that, which I think CMC has proven himself to be this year. Then run DVOA wise, Tennessee number 25, San Francisco 20 there. I would expect that to be okay matchup there for Christian McCaffrey. Getting involved in the pass game, I think he's going to have a pretty solid week this week against Tennessee. It's 12.5 point Vegas line. I'm hesitant to say that San Francisco will win by at least that much. It does look like Tennessee should be able to produce some points a little bit better than you expect. San Francisco's, all right with their matchups there, but I think this one could be closer than we're expecting it to be. But one to watch out for. I think, McCaffrey certainly a solid option in DFS lineups. You might find some surprising pop-off plays here in Tennessee. similar to watching Tony Pollard scorch the earth with that vaunted Cleveland defense last week. Could see something similar this week against San Francisco. All right, folks, we got 3 games tied for the 6th best on the main slate at 42.5, at least of Saturday morning. Arizona heading into Houston on that 42.5 Vegas game total. Houston 9.5-point home favorites gives them a 26 team implied total. 6th best on the main slate. Arizona at 16.5 is 21st on the main slate. Arizona pass protection number 27. Houston 5th in the pass rush. I'd expect Jacoby Brissett to be under duress most of this game, needing to get the ball out as quickly as possible. Greg Dortch probably a beneficiary there. Tight end Trey McBride also a beneficiary. Running backs probably see a little bit more workload in a matchup like this. Pass DVOA, Arizona 22nd, Houston number 1 in that category. They've been really dominant so far this year. I think we see the shoe drop, so to speak, for Jacoby Brissett in this matchup against Houston in Houston. Not looking like a very good matchup for him here. And then on the run blocking side, maybe even worse. 29th in run blocking is Arizona, Houston number 11, and stopping the run on defense. Then run DVOA, Arizona number 27, Houston number 5. They should be very effective at stopping anything going in that run game. This just looks like 2 bad matchups. Even though we've seen Arizona actually have similar matchups to this, and ever since Jacoby Brissett took over, I think they've had 1 or 2 matchups like this, and they've thrived. I don't know if they do that here against Houston. Just not feeling that this week. So kind of a gut feel more so than anything else, because we have seen Arizona succeed in similar environments with Jacoby Brissett under center, but I think that comes to a halt this week. Arizona side, number 12 in pass protection, Arizona 19. Expect Houston to have a little bit more time in this week than they're used to. Pass DVOA wise, pretty even. 15 for Arizona's defense, 19 for Houston's pass offense. Games like that, pretty even. Studs eat. I think Nico Collins probably the biggest beneficiary in a matchup like this. And then the run game will be interesting. Houston's been really poor, number 26 and 28 in the run DVOA, but Arizona on defense been absolutely bad at stopping the run. So they're 31st in run stopping, 26th in run DVOA. Somebody like Woody Marks actually may do pretty good here this week, especially if Arizona's going to be struggling to put up points. We could see Woody Marks get a lot more involved in this game and see quite a bit of volume here against this Arizona squad. All right, number 2 game that is tied for 6th best at 42.5 is Indianapolis heading into Seattle. Another large Vegas line here, 13.5 Seattle home favorites here, giving them a 28-point team implied total, 3rd best on the main slate. Indianapolis at 14.5 is 24th best. I don't know if they're tied for that, but there is 26 teams, so there's at least 2 teams equally or worse than bad than the Colts here. Colts green across the board, but that did get all of that done with Daniel Jones under center. We do not have him this week or the rest of the season, so this was an all-green matchup on offense and defense. And now with Phillip Rivers at the helm, I think that offense is not going to look as good as it did with Daniel Jones. But let's go through the numbers. Indy, number 6 in pass protection. Seattle, number 10 in pass rush. Pretty standard day at the office there. Maybe a little bit more duress than Indianapolis has been used to. Pass DVOA, Indianapolis number 7, Seattle number 2. Slight favor there for the defense, but in those scenarios we can say studs eat. I don't think Indianapolis necessarily has any studs in the pass game right now. But Phillip Rivers maybe can produce somewhat effectively in a matchup like this. And the run game, Indy number 6 in run blocking, Seattle number 3 in stopping the run. And then run DVOA, Indianapolis number 2 on offense, Seattle number 1 on defense. Probably looking a little bit worse than Indianapolis has so far this season with Phillip Rivers at the helm against a very good defense here. This 14.5 seems a little punishing. We'll see if that goes up with Phillip Rivers named the starter by the time the kickoff starts, I could see them kind of betting up more towards the 15.5, 16 range. But we'll see if anything moves from there. Phillip Rivers hasn't, really been moving for the last several years, but does look like it could work for them in a matchup like that. That's pretty evenly matched. Seattle side on offense, number 2 in pass protection. Indianapolis 21st in the pass rush. Expect Seattle to have plenty of time to throw the ball in this matchup. I expect them to be fairly explosive. So they're number 3 in pass DVOA. Indianapolis number 14. JSN does look like he's due for a big game in an environment like this, so I'd expect him to be pretty solid, so watch out for that. And then on the run game side, Seattle's been pretty poor, number 20 and 21, so below average there in the run game. Indianapolis number 6 in stopping the run, number 14 in run DVOA. That is in the favor of Indianapolis's defense, so I think if Seattle's going to move the ball, it's going to be via the air. I do like Sam Darnold in a DFS tournament to actually do pretty good here against Indianapolis, especially if this run game isn't producing much. They're going to lean more and more on that pass game to get them through third downs and everything else. Even if they are leading, I think he could still have a pretty solid week this week. All right, a very interesting game here for the last one that's tied for sixth best on the main slate at 42.5. We have Green Bay heading into Denver. Green Bay actually 2-point road favorites here going into Denver. Denver on a 10-game win streak, I believe. Green Bay number 1 in the NFC Central, beating some pretty quality teams, but also losing to some interesting ones throughout the season. That 2-point Vegas game total does give Green Bay a 22.5 team implied total. 15th best on the main slate. Denver at 20.25 is 18th best. Green Bay, number 5 in pass protection. Denver, number 1 in that pass rush. Green Bay probably needing to get that ball out quicker. Going to lead to more dump-offs, quicker throws, and those who benefit from that, probably not Christian Watson in this matchup. Probably more of those underneath routes, looking at the tight ends. Perhaps Dobbs getting a little bit more involved in a matchup like this. Jaden Reed probably going to be a little bit heavier involved in a matchup like this. Pass DVOA, Green Bay number 2, Denver number 8. Slight favor there for Green Bay, but should be some tough sledding on offense there for Green Bay in the pass game. And then the run game, Green Bay number 10, Denver number 4 in stopping the run. Slight favor there for Denver's defense. Green Bay 11 in run DVOA, Denver number 4 in run DVOA. So behind the ball there in the run game. Pass game does look like the better of the two matchups, but not great either. So Green Bay could struggle to put up some points here. This 22.5 isn't an astronomical total, but be interesting. Looks like good football coming our way if we're watching that. In terms of Denver versus Green Bay on offense, so Denver number 1 in pass protection. They do not take a lot of sacks. I don't necessarily think that's due to the offensive line, but more so the offensive scheme. Green Bay number 17 actually in pass rush, so they're not generating a lot of sacks, even though I think they do generate a lot of pressure with Micah Parsons. Keep that in mind. And then defensive pass DVOA, number 11 for Green Bay, number 15 for Denver, pretty evenly matched. Studs can eat in a scenario like this, especially if they got some time to throw, but I don't think Denver's got any studs in their pass game. And then run game, really evenly matched. Denver number 7, Green Bay number 8, and then run DVOA, Denver number 17, Green Bay number 15. Studs can eat in those scenarios. Not sure if RJ Harvey in a matchup like this, if they're, it's pretty evenly matched. Green Bay behind the ball a little bit. Denver looking like evenly matched at worst, I guess, in their matchups here. Should be very, very close game. Actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and hit the upset alert. I think Denver can go in here and win this game. I think Green Bay is going to struggle a little bit on offense. And we see Denver probably with a little bit of time to throw in this more evenly matched thing. I think the game also hits the under here. I wouldn't be shocked to see both teams under 20 points in a game like this. All right, now we have 2 games tied for the 9th best on the main slate. We have the Jets heading into Jacksonville, take on the Jaguars on a 41.5 point Vegas game total. Jacksonville 13.5, 13.5 favored at home here for that Vegas line. So that gives them a 27.5 team implied total. good for 4th best on the main slate. Jets down at 14, tied for 25th, or actually at 25th out of the 26 teams. Again, that could be tied for 25th there. And maybe 8-10 years ago, we say, hey, this is a matchup between Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, the two highest rated high school prospects coming out in the history of high school football. But it looks like Trevor Lawrence is going to start when we have both Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields out here for the Jets. So we've got third stringer coming in to take over the Jets offense, which is red across the board here, 32nd and 28 in the pass categories. Jacksonville 28th in pass rush. They don't generate a lot of sacks here. They just play good sound defense in the pass game. They don't really rush or blitz a ton of stuff, which does lead to a better pass DVOA at number 10. So I think Jets, while they may have some time to throw, probably not going to find a lot of passing lanes open. This may be a little bit better of a game for the tight ends here. I think Mason Taylor actually got ruled out. Otherwise, I'd say he's a pretty good option this week. Otherwise, I'm not really sure anymore with the Jets and who they got there. John Mechie, is he running some of the more underneath routes? I would say that person's going to get a little bit more involved, but I don't know who that is for the Jets at this point. The run game looks really poor for Breece Hall, 27 and 23 in the run blocking aspects for the Jets. Jacksonville's been pretty healthy there. Number 15, middle of the pack in stopping the run, but number 6 in run DVOA. Jets probably going to be behind the ball most of the game here, and would not expect them to be putting up points. 14 may seem a little generous here. I would say probably closer to 10 to 13 range for the Jets. And then Jacksonville, number 19 in pass protection, number 17 in pass DVOA, a little bit below the midpoint there in the NFL, but Jets 23rd in pass rush and 32nd in pass DVOA. Would expect Trevor Lawrence to be able to do fairly good stuff against the Jets in this particular matchup. With some extra time to throw compared to what he's used to. He should be very explosive here, so Brian Thomas Jr. could see some good run here. Same with Jacoby Myers. Will be interesting to see how that comes about. And then the run game, Jacksonville number 9, Jets 18 in stopping the run. Should be able to get some forward progress on most of their runs. And then run DVOA, Jacksonville middle of the pack at 16, Jets 22nd below average. I'd expect them to be somewhat explosive in this matchup as well. So the run game looks all right. Pass game should be pretty fruitful in a matchup like this. Jacksonville should put up points. Jets shouldn't agree with what Vegas is seeing here. All right, number 11 on the main slate. Out of the 13 games, we have a NFC South matchup. Carolina heading into the Dome of New Orleans on a 40.5 Vegas game total. Carolina 2.5-point road favorites here. The Saints, that gives them 19 for their team implied total, 19th best on the main slate. Carolina at 21.5 points is the 17th best on the main slate. Carolina 18th in offensive pass protection. Saints actually number 8 in the pass rush. So I'd expect Bryce Young to be under a little bit of duress in this, needing to get the ball out a little bit quicker. Could see some dump offs to the tight ends and the running backs in this matchup. Maybe Jalen Coker gets a little bit more involved from the slot. Pass DVOA wise, Carolina's been bad, number 26. Saints also poor, below average at 21. Studs could eat in a scenario like this. Tet McMillan maybe gets a couple bigger plays in this, but really not looking like a super terrific matchup there in the pass game. Run game does look a little better. Carolina number 8 in run blocking. New Orleans 23rd. So I'd expect Carolina, when they do run, to gain positive yardage. That's an even matchup for the DVOA. Studs eat in those scenarios. I don't think Carolina's got that. Just a kind of a standard day at the office. I think they gain yards when they do run it. Explosive plays come here and there. On the Saints side, they're number 19 in pass protection. Carolina 29th in that pass rush. Expect Tyler Shuck to have some time to throw the ball, which is good for their offense there. And then pass DVOA wise, New Orleans 27, Carolina 22nd. Not a very good matchup here just in general, but maybe the Saints find a little success against the otherwise poor Carolina defense. Run game could be interesting. It's really evenly matched, 27 and 28 in the run categories. Slight favor there for the defense. Then 27 and 29 in the DVOA category. Slight favor there for the defense again, but could see Devin Neal be a lot more successful than we've seen him so far this season in a matchup like this. Will be interesting to see. Carolina moving the ball on the ground. Pass game is middling at best, and then New Orleans kind of middling pass game there with some time to throw and a very evenly matched run game here. I do think these teams can put up points against the other's defense. This 40.5 Vegas line seems maybe a little low. I think Saints can go over this 19 points. Carolina, I think, can put up 23, 24, somewhere in that range. Carolina does play slow at number 24. Saints, though, very fast at number 1. I do like Devin Neal to have a pretty solid game here. I'm not saying he's going to be a slate breaker or anything, but wouldn't be shocked to see him with 80 to 100 total yards, maybe a touchdown in a matchup like this. I think he is flex worthy for your playoff matchups this week. All right, we got 2 stinker matchups here tied at number 12 on the main slate with a 38.5 Vegas game total. Vegas heading into Philadelphia on a 12-point favorite line here for Philadelphia. Gives them a 25.25 team implied total. 8th best on the main slate, and then we found where that worst team was. It's Vegas. They're at 13.25 for their team implied total. 26 out of 26 teams. Vegas side, they're all right across the board on offense. 30 and 30 on the pass side. 32 and 32 on the run side. Philadelphia, green in the pass rush, green in the pass DVOA. Would expect Vegas to struggle passing the ball here. I think Kenny Pickett going to be starting. Kenny Two Gloves, so we'll see how that goes, but not looking like a great matchup for him. The run game for Vegas is probably the better of the 2 matchups, unfortunately for them. Like I said, they're 32nd and 32nd, but Philly, number 28 in stopping the run. Maybe they can gain some positive yardage on their runs here, which is a little better for Ashton Genty. Run DVOA for Philly is at 18, so middle of the pack roughly. Maybe Genty has one of his better efficiency games in a game like this. Gets a little bit more involved in that pass game. Wouldn't be shocked to see him with 6 to 8 targets in a matchup like this, especially if they're going to be down. Would expect him to get a lot of run in a matchup like this. Philly side, number 15 in pass protection. Vegas 21st in pass rush. Slight favor there for Philly. Pass DVOA 18. Philly number 11. Slight advantage there for Philly. Pass game should be all right. Should move the ball pretty effectively. And then run blocking side. Philly number 30. Vegas number 22. Nothing crazy here, just 2 bad teams in the run game, and then pretty evenly matched there in the run DVOA. Vegas 23rd, Philly 25. I think in a scenario like that, Barkley can overcome a situation where it's evenly matched like this. Wouldn't be shocked to see him have an all right week. Combined with Philly's pass game looking like it should be above average this week, I think Philly can put up some points. 25.25 seems pretty accurate. Vegas at 13.25. I think they do struggle. That seems pretty close to what I would expect, though. I think Vegas did a good job on here. Both teams do play slow. 25th in neutral situation pace of play for Vegas. And Philly, number 31 in neutral situation pace of play. And finally, last game of the main slate, we have Cleveland heading into Chicago. Could have some weather effects here, below 0, minus 20, minus 25 wind chill, it sounds like, in Chicago this weekend. This Vegas game total of 38.5, I think, is reflective of that. Chicago favored by 7.5 gives them a 23-point team implied total, 14th best on the main slate. Cleveland at 15.5 is the 23rd best on the main slate. Cleveland side, pass protection 23rd and Chicago 25th in the pass rush. Pretty evenly matched there. I think Cleveland will have more time to throw the ball than they're used to, but it could be windy here. Just keep that in mind. Shedeur Sanders, though, looking like he should have some time to throw in this. Pass DVOA, unfortunately for Cleveland, is at 32. Chicago, though, 24. They are right across the board, actually, on defense. So maybe Cleveland looks a little better than they have passing the ball. And we did see Shedeur Sanders in a bad weather game actually have a really, really good matchup there. Threw him for over 300 yards and a couple touchdowns. So it's not like we haven't seen him do well in scenarios like he could see out in the cold in Chicago tomorrow. Run blocking wise, Cleveland 31 and 30, obviously red there, but Chicago 25 and 28. I do think Quinshon Judkins could have a very good game here, especially if it's super cold and they don't want to necessarily be out there that long. I could see him getting pretty heavily involved and kind of shouldering the load there for Cleveland in this matchup. Now on the Chicago side, a lot of green there. So Chicago 7th in pass protection, Cleveland number 3 in that pass rush. Chicago probably under a little bit more duress than they would like. Caleb Williams probably going to be flushed out of the pocket a little bit more, throwing on the run, perhaps taking some sacks. Pass DVOA wise, Cleveland number 7, Chicago number 12. Pretty evenly matched there. Studs eat. I'm not sure what that looks like for Chicago, but they'll probably need to get the ball out quicker. I wouldn't be shocked to see passes going to the running backs and the tight ends and some people running some of those underneath routes. Luther Burden, perhaps getting a little bit more involved. Run game, Chicago has been very effective. Number 2 and number 5 in the run categories, but Cleveland really good. Number 1 and number 2 there. Really evenly matched here. Chicago could struggle against this Cleveland defense, especially in the weather elements. Cleveland could do a little better than they're used to against the Chicago defense. I think this game is actually going to be a little bit closer than what this looks like. The 38.5 Vegas game total is probably somewhat accurate, especially what I hear weather-wise. But I think Cleveland can actually cover the 7.5 point Vegas line against Chicago in this matchup. Will be interesting to see what happens this week. All right, we're dipping into the island games here. We are done with the main slate, so we have Sunday Night Football, Minnesota and Dallas taking off on Sunday night. So Minnesota heading into Dallas. Dallas favored by 5.5 on a 48-point Vegas game total, which is pretty healthy there. Dallas 26.75 team implied total. Minnesota 21.25. This Vegas game total 48 is high enough where I start saying, hey, I think all skill position players, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, quarterbacks are probably going to be in your optimal lineup in an island game scenario. Minnesota offensive pass protection 31st. Dallas, though, 27th in pass rush. Improving in that category, but still pretty bad season long. Minnesota 29th in pass DVOA. Dallas 30th. Scenario based off of paper, what we see here, again, Dallas is improving, but on paper, Minnesota should be able to move the ball via the air. This isn't a dome type of scenario, so I think no concerns there in terms of weather. I think Minnesota will feel right at home there in Dallas and probably will do pretty well against this defense from the looks of it. Run blocking wise, Minnesota number 5 in run blocking, Dallas number 13 in stopping the run. Minnesota should be able to push the ball forward when they are running. Run DVOA, Minnesota 13, Dallas 29. Again, they are improving this category, but looks like a favor here for Minnesota. Should be somewhat explosive running the ball. That pass game should look better than usual, at least based off of season-long numbers. Will be interesting, but I do think Minnesota can put up some points here. 21.25 seems a little low based off of what I see here. I think they can score upwards of 24, 27 against this Dallas team. Now Dallas on offense, number 4 in pass protection. Minnesota number 4 in pass rush. Probably under a little bit of duress there for Dak and company, needing to get the ball out a little bit quicker. Don't be shocked to see the running backs get a little bit more involved in the pass game there. Tight end Ferguson probably getting a little bit more involved there. CeeDee Lamb probably running some of the shorter underneath routes is going to get heavier target load than George Pickens, but we'll see. We've seen Minnesota get burned on some of this stuff by some of these double moves and some of those receivers, A.J. Brown and stuff, getting involved, especially if the offense is game planning for that type of an environment. And dead even on the pass DVOA, number 9 and number 9 there. So really evenly matched. Studs eat. I think Pickens and Lamb are both studs in that pass game. Just watch out for that. And then pretty evenly matched in the run game. Dallas number 4 in run blocking. Minnesota number 10 in stopping the run. And then run DVOA, Minnesota number 12, Dallas 15. Pretty even matchup across the board for Dallas's offense. Studs eat. I think that leans into the pass game more than the run game here. But in general, I think Minnesota scores a few more points than is otherwise suggested. I think Dallas maybe is muted a little bit, even though their offense is really good. Could be a little bit more volatile if Minnesota's getting home and getting rattled. Dallas may struggle a little bit, but if that's not the case in their game planning, I think Dallas can put up some points. Will be interesting to see exactly what happens here, but I think we could almost say an upset alert. I think Minnesota makes this really close in Dallas, a lot more than that 5.5 Vegas game line is suggesting, and perhaps even takes the victory here, but I think they cover that 5.5 points. All right, Monday Night Football, last game here. Miami 19.25 team implied total. Pittsburgh 22.25 for their team implied total. That is a Vegas game total of 41.5 with Pittsburgh the 3-point home favorites. I think on this Vegas game total, you start looking at defenses and kickers in your optimal lineups if we're not going to be scoring a ton of points. So watch out for that as we go through this. Miami 17 in pass protection, Pittsburgh number 18 in the pass rush. Really evenly matched here, nothing to write home about. Pass DVOA, Miami number 25, Pittsburgh number 12. Even on paper, Pittsburgh's been kind of a pass funnel. People able to pass for quite a few yards against this Pittsburgh defense. Despite what it says here on paper, I think Miami could be decent there. Tua could have a decent game against this defense. And then run blocking wise, Miami 21st, Pittsburgh 21st, and stopping the run really evenly matched there. Studs eat. Sounds like Devon Achane will be available in this matchup. And then the run DVOA number 6, Pittsburgh number 17. Should be very explosive, very successful running the ball here against Pittsburgh. So I think we could see Devon Achane have a pretty solid game here against this Pittsburgh defense. One of those that you're going to want to watch out for in an island game matchup. Potential captain as well. Pittsburgh side, 11 in pass protection, Miami 25th in pass rush. Expect Aaron Rodgers and company to have plenty of time to throw. Then Miami 26th in pass DVOA. Pittsburgh's been pretty poor, number 24, but I do expect against this Miami defense, Pittsburgh should be more explosive than we otherwise have seen them be so far this season. And then the run game, Miami's been pretty good. Number 9 in stopping the run, number 7 in run DVOA. Pittsburgh, number 17 in run blocking, number 12 in run DVOA. This is in the favor of the defense. I think that Pittsburgh run game struggles a little bit. They lean a little bit more heavily in this pass game. I think attacking this Pittsburgh pass attack and then getting Devon Achane here probably going to be pretty successful. And then looking at the Pittsburgh side, hey, they might stall out with this run game. Maybe their kicker gets involved here, and that's your one-off scenario where you're getting a kicker involved in your optimal lineups. Both teams do play relatively slow, 20th and 26th in neutral situations. So I agree with the lower scoring game here unless Achane's going bonkers and the pass game is so effective against this Miami defense that they score some points. Don't necessarily see that happening, but I think that's kind of how that game's going to go. And that will do it for the Week 15 slate. Hopefully you got a little bit more information to make more successful start-sit decisions for your playoff matchups here, your DFS lineups, and putting in any of your prop bets. Good luck on those. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one. Peace.